in.
Bob now. Looked on the rain. I saw that. I looked on the rain.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Okay.
Another day in paradise. Well, it's 7:01 and we still don't have a quorum. I guess we do. Yes, we do. Cynthia, Lewis, and Leslie are here. Still waiting for Bruce and Catherine. Would you like to wait for them or would you like to move forward, directors?
I'd like to wait.
Okay. Everybody, we're just waiting for the last two directors to dial in. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. There's Bruce. And there's Catherine.
Sorry, I was late.
No worries. And you do have a quorum right now. Catherine just joined as well. All the board is here, so if you'd like, we can call the order at 7:04.
Sounds good.
Yep. Good.
Roll call then. Director Scheibels,
Present.
Director Barclay,
Here.
Director Kennedy,
Present.
Director Young,
Here.
Director Haynes. Director Haynes, oh, I've got your camera, Director Haynes, but not your audio.
Shows her connecting.
Yep. Director Haynes, can you hear us? You're muted now.
There you go.
Director Haynes, can you hear us? I can see you speaking, but I don't hear anything.
Sorry, double muted on my phone.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. Okay, Mr. Scheibels, you do have a quorum.
Okay. And Kurt, if you want, I'm fine with you running the agenda for us tonight.
Okay. First item is to review and approve the agenda. That was part of your board packet. It also was posted to the website at least 24 hours before tonight's meeting. Unless there's anything to add or take off of the agenda, just need a motion and a second to approve.
I would like to move agenda item 9 to accommodate Brittany Barnett, the district manager of Town Center, who is going to help us with item number 9. She has some childcare issues, and she asked if we could move that item to earlier in the agenda and move it to I want to move it to right after correspondence. So after the consent agenda and before public comment, just so that she can help us with that item and then be able to leave after that, because she's a single mom with her child with her tonight. So
Okay,
that's the only thing I would like to do, is to amend the agenda to move that item, number 9.
so Director Scheibels has moved to amend the agenda to move that item. Is there a second to accept the minutes and move that item, or to accept as amended, excuse me?
I second. This is Leslie.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone opposed to approving the agenda as amended? Perfect, thank you very much. Next item is the consent agenda. Consists of matters that occur in the normal course of business. There's only 2 items on the consent agenda. First one is approval of your minutes from your last meeting of March 26th, and then ratification of payments that have been made since March 26th. If there's nothing to, if you're okay with both of those, or if you don't want to remove either of those, just need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I think there's been a question raised regarding the minutes, so I think we have to remove, I think we have to take the minutes off of the consent agenda.
Okay? So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, the amended consent agenda, consisting only of the ratification of payments made since March 26th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to accepting the amended consent agenda? Thank you. Next then is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of March 26th.
An issue has been raised, well, first of all, I'll move to approve, but there's an issue has been raised, so I'll move to approve if someone would raise, and then I'll bring up the issue that has been raised.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. It's open for discussion.
I gotta find the packet, sorry, find the actual issue. So an issue has been raised as to what we discussed and the motion that came out of the executive session. And it has to do with the memorandum of understanding. And I'm sorry, I'm fine, I don't have my, I guess I don't have my board packet up today, up on my screen.
I can help you, Bruce. I can.
I believe it's the page you're discussing.
Okay. Okay. So it said, I move the board to direct legal counsel to work in cooperation with TCMD's legal counsel to seek a stay in the current litigation with the proposed MOU between the two districts as the basis for the stay. And I thought I'd say that we had approved, that Ebert had approved the memorandum of understanding as the basis for seeking the stay as part of that motion. And I may have been inartful in my motion, but that's what I thought I had moved, and that's what I thought that we had, that the second was, and that we had voted on.
I can check the recording, but can't do it right now during the meeting. If you'd like to do that, and we can put this off until the next meeting.
Well, Kurt, the way it's written, Kurt, it's implicit that the MOU was approved because it was the basis for doing the motion to the court.
And if that's your interpretation, then I'm fine with leaving it as is.
Did he have vitamins today, Dave? No. Okay.
If you're not with the board of directors or council, could you please mute your computer? Sorry, Evan.
Evan, your volume is not very high, so we're having a hard time hearing you.
Ah, okay, let's see here.
That's better. Right there is better already.
Yep.
Okay. I think it was interference from that other sound, but at any rate, so Director Barclay asked me today what if the MOU had actually been approved. And when I looked at the minutes and the way it's written in the other business category there, I mean, it is certainly implicit that in order to go with the forward to the court and seek the stay, that the MOU was approved because that was the basis for going forward for the stay. But it seems to me you could change that language if you want to be more clear about that. But it seems to me that it was accomplished with that motion when it was passed.
Okay, with that interpretation, then I move that we approve the minutes as is.
You already have a motion on the table that's been seconded.
Okay,
Right. Yeah, there we go.
Is there any other discussion regarding approval of the minutes from the March 26th meeting? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed to approving the minutes from the March 26th meeting?
I approve.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we can move on to what was number 9, discussion and consideration of approval to transfer $297,309.93 from the capital expenditures to be approved by Ebert line item of the EMD capital projects bond proceeds. Brittany, is that your section that you want to discuss?
Yes, and Bruce, did you have anything? I mean, do you guys have specific questions? Did you just want me to just review what we've been doing the last month?
Well, first of all, to get this on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that we approve that the Ebert board approved the 297,000. What's the actual number? I've got to go back to the
$297,309.93 from the capital expenditures to be approved by Ebert line item of the EMD capital projects bond proceeds series 2018 fund to the Town Center Metropolitan District based on the request by the Town Center.
so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. It's open for discussion.
And Brittany, if you could just give what you have done with members of the Ebert board at different times since our March meeting when this item was last on the agenda and last considered.
Sure, no problem. We have driven the community a few times, I believe 3 times, with different members of the Ebert board, as well as Bill Schmidt with the Town Center Metro District Board. And I have shown them around the different landscape beds that were upgraded in the community, enhanced, and then showed them the old landscape beds and what they look like and the difference between the two, and showed them why it's a capital replacement versus just a maintenance issue, right? We completely redid those landscape beds. We put in rock mulch instead of the mulch that needs to be replaced every year. We put in new plant material and took out old plant material that doesn't look nice anymore in the community. And we toured them around and showed everybody the different parks as well that had upgrades. And overall, the feedback sounded really nice from the Ebert board. It seemed like everybody could really tell the difference between the old landscape beds and the new landscape beds. And overall, the feedback was very positive from board members.
Brittany, this is Lewis Kennedy. If you could speak to the differentiation of these projects from routine maintenance in the landscape category to the more capital type uses in this in this category.
Lewis, I apologize. My daughter came over and started talking to me right as you were talking.
Not a problem. No, the question is, if you could please distinguish the difference between routine maintenance in the areas versus the capital investment in these areas.
Sure. So the maintenance in these areas was pretty basic, and the scope was simply to water and maintain. So once a year, the shrubs would be trimmed and the landscape beds are watered. Sweetie, just 1 second, okay? And then
I have
as far as,
Oh, well, Brittany, this is Leslie, and I I guess, I took one of those drives with you and I was very pleasantly surprised. And now I have an understanding of what you've been doing. But I have two questions, I guess. When you do a capital expense like that, I mean, catch me up, I'm new. Do you guys, does Town Center just do it? Does Timberline just do it? Or do they need approval from the Ebert board? That's my first question. And then my second one is I don't understand the lag time. We've got a lot of time from the initial, I guess, from the 2018 fund, capital projects completed in 2021, and now you're asking for reimbursement in 2024. Just from my experience in business, that's not a real good way of running a business.
Thank you, Leslie.
Sure.
So I can't actually answer your second question because I haven't been involved in this very long, so I don't know the answer to your second question. I feel like maybe Bruce or Lewis, do you guys know the answer and why there has been this lag?
So I will tell you, Leslie, that the process, and pardon my bluntness, sucked. That's why we're changing the process going forward. In the past, it was an alleged verbal okay from maybe one member of the board. And this is how it apparently always used, even before the 2018. They'd get an okay. It was never recorded. There was never any written okay, and the money just, flowed. This apparently was something where maybe Jerry sat down with Todd years ago and allegedly got the okay, and then came to us, I don't know, 18, 20 months ago and said, hey, approve this. We asked for backup and never got any backup documentation. When we finally got it, it looked to us initially as just, wait a minute, this is just, trying to make something, I don't know, dress up some stuff that was just, deferred maintenance. But I will tell you that what I'm seeing now and what Brittany's explained as we've walked around, it looks to me more like, when you have capital reserve funds and you are saving for, say, replacing roadways, or you're saving for replacing a building roof, that at some point, no matter how well you maintain a building or you maintain a roadway, at some point you're going to have to replace it. And a number of these beds were first put in 10, 15 years ago when the whole Ebert area was first starting to be developed. And I'm now convinced that that's what was done here. It's just the process was wrong. And going forward, when, like Brittany's looked at some other things, and as part of the whole settlement of the litigation, it's going to be a combination of the Joint Landscape Committee coming up with stuff that we'll use that's all part of the landscape operations going forward. That will be an annual thing as part of the sort of maintenance part. There's going to be some that's going to be future capital projects, that some of these older beds that may be redone in a similar way that will involve capital transfers, but they won't be done without documenting them. This is one where I'm now see what happened. I see the process, and I'm ready to say, okay, I understand what they did here now. And even though I don't like the process that was done, I'm ready to say, okay, that's okay on this project, but we're not doing it this way again. No more handshake deals, no more verbal, not documenting it. And going forward, we have a process in place where Brittany's going to bring us projects, and future, they're going to bring us projects. We're going to approve them in an appropriate way. And we're also going to have, the budget set up, and we have, the current landscape contract has much more deliverables, much more, oversight built into it. So it's a better process already in place, since the litigation. So that's how I'm looking at it now. So I don't know if I've answered your question, Leslie, other than to say in the past, the process wasn't in place. I know what you're saying. That was my initial thing. Why are they coming to us 3 or 4 years later for a project that was done back in 21 that was apparently approved? I don't know where the records are. There are no records that it was actually approved, but that's why they're looking for the reimbursement now. And I understand why they're looking for it as a capital reimbursement as opposed to just a simple maintenance project.
Bruce or Brittany, Cynthia Barkley, I'd like to know where the documentation is today, just like the photos that she's describing that has been upgraded. Where can we find those? And who is contract monitoring now and forever until whoever takes over eventually in the future, as you're saying, Bruce, that shows all the particulars of what is supposed to be done, what should have been done according to TCMD and their paperwork and their service agreement. So we've technically paid for everything already, the residents, and now you want to be reimbursed for something that you really did or didn't do, but we have no records. So I don't understand how you can even offer to pay them. Regardless, that is their problem with no paperwork. So do you pay your bills without an invoice? And you being on the FOC should have had something along the way that has come back to you. I was on the landscape committee. I never, we talked to Jerry. Jerry was there. We went through many things. Al Morey, Jeff Shelton, a lot of us, they were in the notes from Jennifer Woods, who was a past director. So I don't like the idea of going backwards with no backup. So if they can be explained a little better, if you can show the residents on the website what they've done, where they've done it, what they're using, who's contract monitoring from this day forward, because the residents are spending money over and over again to do things that aren't taken care of.
But the invoices for this 297 were in the board packet from March, and they're on the website.
Okay.
Give us a package, and that will be put on the website as well. So all that will be on the website going forward.
And the photos?
And photos, what it looks like now, if she puts a proposal together asking for future capital projects, yeah, we'll need those as to why she's asking for it. I'm sure, yes. But there are photos in the packet from past, yes.
So all these this is Leslie again, all these previous invoices have been paid. We have an assurance of that.
Yeah, they all were paid according to
Okay.
the stamps on the invoices, yes.
Yeah. I'm just right now, I am not real comfortable approving $300,000 from somebody that walks up 2 years later. I used to own restaurants. I didn't come up to my customers and say, wait a minute, that lasagna, you didn't pay for it last week.
This is Lewis Kennedy, just to clarify to the public and just to remind the board members, this $297,000 is not a disbursement to a third party. It's a movement of capital funds from our Metro District to Town Center's balance sheet, essentially. The vendors were paid 2 years ago. So this money is essentially existing between Ebert Metro District and Town Center Metro District. It's not going outside of that existence, just to be clear.
So if I may speak, understanding that, Lewis, then it is Town Center making the request and not Timberline making the request of these funds?
Timberline is
Correct.
the agent for Town Center. And they have the details that back up the previous spending of the 297. And what, as Bruce said, if the process was appropriate and working, there would have been an approval process and documentation for that before it was dispersed to the vendors. And then Town Center would have come and said, okay, we paid our vendors, now we need to replenish our capital fund on the Town Center side, and we would have moved the money over. It's just now happening 2 years later.
Okay, then, and again, forgive because I'm new on the board, but what role does Ebert have in deciding what capital can be done and at what cost and when? At what point? Or it seems to me like they ask for it, we automatically give it. Where are the checks and balances that I have not learned about yet?
As Bruce mentioned, in the past, it was inappropriately done in the sense that it was just verbal instructions or verbal agreements without the appropriate documentation or process before the spending occurred. We're committed to establishing a process to go forward that before the spending is approved, we see the details and approve the concept. And at this point, Town Center, through their sub-district manager, have agreed to that.
Under the 2018 IGA, Ebert has to approve any capital projects. It wasn't done appropriately in the past. That's what we're trying to correct at this point, Khadija.
Yeah, yes, I understand that. Thank you for that. And like Leslie, I still have a little trouble with moving forward, even though there's been an acknowledgement that it wasn't done correctly. Was there, or is there any contemplation of a negotiation conversation?
What I'm hoping is that by approving this 297, that a good portion of that money will help with the work that's going to be used as part of the litigation settlement process going forward for the next year and a half, and will be used as part of some of the transition work as well. And so by transferring the funds between the two capital accounts, that since Town Center is still the operating district and does all the work for Ebert at this point in time, that they will use a good portion of those funds for some of that work that we've been contemplating as part of the litigation settlement process.
And is that in writing or is that in discussion only? Do we have that in a solid contractual way, that which portion of this will do that and which portion of it will do something else?
Phrased that way, no. It's in the discussion part. It will be part of the transition discussion, definitely.
Might I suggest that before we move the money, that there is a clear distinction between what the dollars will go to? That's
a good point. If you want to make an amendment to the motion to that effect, that would be a possibility.
Okay, well, when we get to the end of discussion, I will make that request.
So I have one more question, Bruce. This is Cynthia. So the 297 was never budgeted within town at any one time. So this is an overexpenditure of town, and that's why they want to be reimbursed. But they have all their documentation in place for what they actually did at that time. And this is overage. This is over and above. Is what you're asking, this reimbursement of the 297.
Well, they paid for this I'm told they have other sources of funds that paid for these projects back in 2021. They get them from other sources. But I don't know the answer to that. I'm not on
Okay.
town's board.
So let's say not budgeted, not demonstrated in a fashion of contracts, or like you say, there's no direct line to what, why, or when. And here we are. ATM in it again. Okay. Thank you.
Just one more clarification on the concept of whether it was budgeted or not, and how the spending was accomplished. Town center, just like Ebert Metro's district, is limited to the annual expenditures by the budget that is final and approved. So in order for town center to have spent that money, it had to have been within the approved budget grand total for that year in the expenditures. So from that standpoint, if they didn't plan to spend it, then they had to not spend it in another area of their budget. I'm not familiar enough with the 2021 budget as to how that procedure was done, but they can't spend more than they're allowed for in their approved budget. So it's not technically over budget because it was done within the confines of their approved 2021 budget.
Any further discussion?
Now is the time to propose an amendment to the motion if you choose to do so.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I would propose an amendment that would require a budget for the dollars and a commitment of expenditure to that budget prior to any movement of dollars from one account to the other, and that this board be notified of that budget and those line items prior to the transfer.
And you're talking about after this date, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And that's specific if we approve the 297 and change the number, the full number?
For me, it doesn't matter what the number is. I can't exceed that because that's what we have in writing right now. And I am just saying that I want to see what the plan is for every expenditure prior to the transfer of funds. If it ends up being less funds, if there is a conversation and it's negotiated in some other way, then still whatever amount is about to be transferred, I would like to see exactly what the expenditure is for, and if some of it is being embargoed for litigation or whatever, I want to see that, what parts are going where.
I can second that amendment.
Okay, it's been moved to amend the motion to approve the transfer of the funds and to require a budget or receipts for expenditures prior to the transfer of any money. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes.
Sounds
Okay.
good to me. Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Is there any discussion on the amendment to the motion? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed to the amendment to the motion?
Oops, I vote no.
All right, so there's 4 in favor and 1 opposed.
I'm going to put a no on that. This is Leslie.
So there's 2 opposed and 3 in favor of the amendment. Now back to the original question is to approve the transfer of the funds. Is there anyone opposed to the transfer of the funds?
I oppose.
Does anybody else oppose the transfer of the funds?
This is Leslie. I oppose.
Is there anyone else that opposes the transfer of the funds?
I oppose the transfer of the funds until which time we understand what the funds are going to be used for.
Khadijah, I'm a little confused. We approved the amendment, so they're not going to be transferred.
You didn't approve, the amendment failed.
No, the
No,
amendment
the
was
Did it
approved
not,
three to
Kurt?
2.
The amendment
Hold on
passed
just a
in favor, 2 opposed.
Oh, the amendment passed?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I missed that. My Bluetooth may not be working. Thank you. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. I will, with the amendment having passed, I can support this transfer.
Okay. So the motion then to affect the transfer passes with 3 votes in favor, 2 opposed. Thank you.
I thought Kadisha did not approve. I thought she voted no since the amendment did not pass.
And we just corrected her and said the amendment did pass, and that's why she withdrew that vote and voted in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
So
Brittany. I think we're done with you, unless you want to stay on.
Thank you all so much, and thank you to all the board members who drove around and looked at the community with me and saw the renovations throughout the community. I really appreciate all of your time.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, we can move on then to number 4 on the agenda. It's correspondence. I don't have any correspondence. Do any of the directors have any that they've received since the last meeting?
None from me.
I don't have any.
Okay, we can move on to public comment. The board and district staff truly value the public's input. Please keep your comments restricted to the topics of the district and its business, and please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. If you'd like to comment, make a comment. If you'd like to make a comment to the board, please click on the raise hand icon, and we'll call on you as we get to it. iPad Gail. I'm not sure your last name, Gail.
It's Gail Bell.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to comment on what just happened because there was no discussion about the satisfaction of these projects on the part of the homeowners. And I'd like to thank Louis Kennedy for joining some of the residents and looking through the park on España and 54th Place, the park there, which is totally unsatisfactory. Here we are in mid-June, and that park is an absolute disaster mess. And it has been many, many times before. So, you know, they may have started and done these projects, but were they satisfactory to the community? No. And I find a problem with paying them for work that we have not been pleased with for many years now. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Gail, can you tell me the name of that park again? I'm sorry.
I don't know if it actually has a name. It's one of the 2 parks in Fairway Villas. It's on España and 54th Place.
Thank you.
Okay,
It houses the,
Yeah, I
houses
don't
the
know
community
if it
garden
has-
there.
Who is that?
It houses the community garden
Oh,
next to that park.
Yes, thank you, Louis, and thank you for going on the tour with us. And I know you agreed with us about that. So, yeah, transferring this amount of money when people are not satisfied with the work that's been done by Timberline that just left, so she's not available to hear this. But this is far from the first time that something like that has been unsatisfactory. Okay, I'm done. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Turner.
Hi. I feel like that we're they're nowhere on the agenda. Maybe there wasn't time or whatever to address kind of the elephant in the room, which is the hailstorm. I have only lived here 2 years. This is my 4th home and my first time dealing with an homeowners association. And boy, oh boy, it makes me want to move. But we have gotten probably 4 emails in the last week trying to clarify and make everybody understand what's going on. And it would seem to me that a 30-day period of time for people to get plans submitted to your board and to the committees to decide what they are or are not going to do after this damage is setting people up for failure. There's no way that most of us will be able to get an adjuster, get a contractor, figure out a contractor, who's going to do what. Do I want to make some changes? Do I want to do like to like? That's really an unreasonable request. And unless it is meant to cause harm to the homeowners by putting them in a bind and setting them up for failure because they can't get all of that done, because unfortunately people have jobs. They're not sitting at home all day waiting for contractors and adjusters to show up in their 3 or 4 hour window. They're working. So I just wonder why we feel that it is so imperative that everyone give you guys a plan if they want to change anything, notify you if they're going to have their property repaired, all of those things in 30 days, when the reality is we have a year to submit any kind of a claim to our insurance companies. And it's going to take more time. So I'm just curious why the board or why this group seems to be trying to set up its homeowners for failure. I don't know if that makes it a money making thing, because then you can fine everybody, or really what that's all about. Because as I said, I've only lived here 2 years and I've never had to deal with homeowner associations. And so far, it doesn't seem to be benefiting the homeowners at all. So I just wonder how that's going to be addressed, if there's going to be some changes, or if we're just going to keep pushing through to get everybody to get on board and make this the top priority in their life.
Ms. Turner, I'll try to make this as clear as I can. First of all, within the Ebert Metro District, there are no homeowners associations. It's the Ebert Metro District, and then there's the Town Center Metro District. And I agree completely. The last 3 or 4 emails that we've all received from Westwind have been confusing. And I actually started having some conversations and emails with April, and I copied Brittany last week asking, because the covenants talk about like for like and all that, and how do you interpret. Brittany actually was the person who started with, we're not getting into having people submit design review requests if you're deciding, or your contractors, there's a lot of contractors saying, we're going to upgrade your shingles. Don't worry about it. We're going to give everybody impact resistant shingles. So the long and the short of it is, nobody within the Ebert boundaries, I don't know anywhere else in Green Valley Ranch, but within the Ebert physical boundaries, nobody has to submit a design review request if they are getting impact resistant shingles, as long as they're not changing their shingles from asphalt to tile, or as long as they're not changing their vinyl siding from vinyl to stucco or vinyl to hardy board. As long as you're going vinyl to vinyl with the same color, or as long as you're going asphalt to asphalt with the same color, you don't have to submit a plan. What they are asking, if one elevation of your house looks like it got hit by a machine gun because of the hail, all they're asking you to do is send an email to Westwind, to April or Audrey, to say, I've contacted my insurance, it's in process. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's in process. So just make a note of it and don't send me a friendly, get your house repaired, letter. That's all they're asking. That's as simple as I realize. All those emails are confusing as hell, but really that's all they want. They don't want, because they do have, and that's what they're saying. We're not going to start those ride-arounds until early July, because that's 30 days after, or 35, whatever the number is. But they're saying you don't have to do design review requests. You don't have to, if you're doing like for like, which means the same color and same material. If you're making substantive changes, if you're going to put psychedelic purple shingles on your house, or you're going to change, from, gray siding to, maroon siding, yeah, you are going to have to do a design review request, like we all have to do if you're making a substantive change, under the covenants. But
Bruce, she simply asked why 30 days? Why
the 30 days is a separate thing. The 30 days is the other thing. The 30 days is just letting him know that you're on it, that you've started the process. That's all they want to know.
No, it's 30
And
days.
it's not Ebert.
It's 30 days.
Mr. Klink, we'll call on you in a minute. Thank you.
So I'm just trying to tell you that I agree. Those emails were confusing as hell and everything, but I'm going to tell you, nobody has to do a design review request unless you're making a substantive change.
And Ms. Turner, this board does not review or approve HOA requests.
Who is in charge of the HOA then?
There is no HOA.
Well, who's in charge of Westwind?
They're hired by Timberline Development, who is the district manager, or Brittany, who's the district manager of Town Center Metro District, who does the operations within Ebert.
And so are they making decisions for us as a community based on what we want or what they want, and we have no say? Or so I guess I'm really confused.
They're following the covenants. There's something in the covenants that talks about 30 days or the regulations that are that flow from the covenants.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Mr. Klink.
Well, could it be said by this board that essentially don't worry about the 30 days with this big hailstorm and the wide extent of all this stuff, and that if you're going to change your route, if you don't get your new plan in by 30 days, nobody's going to come find you, right?
Well, you don't have to submit a plan. That's the issue.
Yes, it does. The last email, Bruce, says if you're going to make a substantive change, like change to tile, you got to submit a plan before 30 days.
No.
No. Well, that's how I read it, and I think that's how Ms. Turner reads it. The district is requiring that owners submit plans within 30 days for any exterior replacement that require approval from the district, like change of roof tile color or new siding or stucco, or change of color. See that? It says if you want to change the color, you got to do it within 30 days.
Kurt, may I have permission to speak on behalf of Town Center?
Fine with me, Bill.
Okay. Cal, I'm not sure which West Wind email you're reading, because there's been 3. And the first 2 really frosted me, since I'm a homeowner subject to the same issues everybody else is. And so the one that went out today was supposed to be a clarification. The way that I understand it is pretty much the way Bruce just described it, is that if you have damage that is noticeable from the street, within 30 days, you need to let West Wind know that you're aware of the issue and that you're going to be working on it. That's all you have to do in the first 30 days.
I've just forwarded you a copy of that letter that came out today, and that's not what it says.
That's why I also hope that Brittany would have stayed on longer to handle this.
Mr. Klink, anything else?
Yes. Back in mid-April, I sent a letter to some of the board members who were participating in that joint landscape committee, expressing my concerns about the upcoming restoration of the First Creek Interceptor sewer line, the areas that were disturbed by that. So we now have like these 200 to 150 foot wide swaths of dirt that runs diagonally across our district, right through the middle of our area. And supposedly they're supposed to be restored just the way they were before they were dug up and turned into just swaths of dirt. Well, those things were my concerns was the quality of which they were going to be restored. And some of my things that I anticipated were going to go wrong appear to have already gone wrong. That areas have been replanted, but it's going on to be like 30 days since the replanting, and the seeds still have not germinated and popped up through the soil. I'm concerned that it's not, the germination ain't happening. Anyway, I'm still concerned about whether or not the quality of the restoration is going to happen as promised. And you can say, well, that's not our responsibility. That's Aurora's. Yeah, but Town Center Metro District, Ebert Metro District are the customers of Aurora, because they're supposed to, that the restoration of that land belongs to us. It's in our district. And they need to restore it satisfactory to our district. That's why I think there should be some oversight by our district management, whether it be Evan or it be Brittany, to keep some pressure on Aurora to make sure they restore those properties to an acceptable manner. So that's my concern.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bell?
Yes, I would like to very much agree with what Kel said. I have toured that area as well. That whole project was so mishandled by both Aurora and Denver in terms of informing the people surrounding that area of what was going to transpire, how long it would take. We had no insight, no ability to comment, no ability to ask questions, and it is absolutely a horrible disaster. If you go and look at over 300 trees that were taken down. I feel so sorry for the people that paid all that extra money to live along there and that they've had to tolerate this for well over a year already. And it's never going to look the same. This was a total disaster. So I'm confirming what Kel said. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment?
I have one and I don't know where the raise your hand button is, so I'll raise my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, sir, that's fine.
I appreciate your calling on me. Thank you. I want to second or third Kel's and Gail's comments there on the status. I've been in touch often with Elizabeth of the Aurora Water Department, and she told me a couple of months ago that she was confident that the seeding and the cleanup would be done in a week or so if everything falls into place. And I told her, as someone who spent 40 some odd years in construction, that I know sometimes things don't always fall into place. That was 2.5 months ago. And the place is a mess. We identified between myself and her 20 different locations that needed work, and they actually added a couple more as they walked away. There's no reason for this at all. They have demobilized and left just mess after mess. Again, I worked construction for 40 something years, and they just abandoned the place. There's no money to be made in cleaning up. They're off to make more money down at the Tower and 56 intersection. I guess in a capitalistic society, you can't blame them, but in a society where they are supposed to be taking care and making a nice job of things, it's really pretty shameful.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Turner, do you have something else? You're muted.
Just a question. When all of these different comments are made and people are expressing their concerns or their questions, what actually happens with that? Are you just giving us the courtesy of listening and then we move on? Does anyone follow up? Is it just, a waste of our breath, or
Comments are reflected in the minutes for the meeting, but the board doesn't necessarily answer public comment because these items may come up as a business item at a future meeting.
Interesting. So if the people that live in this Ebert County district or in this district, what would be the best way for them then to ask questions and get some kind of response?
I would contact Town Center Metropolitan District or their manager because they're the entity that's responsible for overseeing these projects.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Ms. Turner, I am just beginning my second month on this board, but I would be happy to engage with you or any of the others who have brought questions forward to help you try to navigate the answers. So like everyone else on this board, we are elected by the residents of this community. And in my experience, those who are elected have a responsibility to communicate with those who have elected them. And I take that very seriously. So please reach out. I will, if you would like. TCMD is the appropriate place for getting the quickest answers, I believe. but I am happy to be of assistance to you or anyone else who is trying to navigate what needs to happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will try to reach out to you and perhaps we can have that conversation.
Any other public comment? Seeing no hands raised, we can move on to director's items and comments. Director Scheibels?
Yeah, get back to the agenda, sorry. I don't know, we don't have anything actually listed on the director's items. I think we can move on to unfinished business.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you, sir. First item then on unfinished business is an update on the litigation status with the Town Center Metropolitan District, and then Mr. Schmidt provided a final report on the memorandum of understanding, and he's with us tonight.
Yes, I'm not gonna go through that in detail because it's there for everybody to read. But I was working with 3 of the directors of Ebert to negotiate the MOU on behalf of the Town Center Board. When we were resolving the issues, our team understood that it's gonna take at least 2 summers to fix a good portion of what went wrong over the last number of years in terms of management. So not everything is gonna happen all at once. The MOU itself is a forward-looking statement, and it's based on collaboration between the Ebert Board and the Town Center Board members, as well as a series of changes that Town Center made to internal management. I noticed, yes, we still have Timberline District Consulting as our district manager. I will admit that we had significant internal discussion on whether to replace them or not. If we replace them, we would have been able to do virtually nothing for 6 months while we found a new district manager. So we thought having some improvements in the short run is better than total chaos for 6 months. I have to say that since we, even before we got the MOU put into place, we were implementing a number of things. We now have board members from both boards on the Joint Landscaping Committee. Town Center was not participating in that way before. The Landscape Committee members would say that it's probably starting to show some progress that we weren't showing before. We will be having minutes posted soon from our last several meetings. We just got started on implementing the resolution plan. The 2-year stay was not put in place until the first week of May. And Town Center did not redeploy any significant litigation funds from the budget to fixing things until the stay was in place. So we have a number of things that we're doing. Bids are out. Work is going to be done, and you will start to see some things. As I said earlier, it's going to take probably 2 summers to see a lot of significant progress. We've increased the oversight. I don't know how much oversight the district manager had before this process started, but I can tell you now that the Town Center board members are in contact with our district manager just about every day, if not more than once a day. And the district manager is paying a lot more attention to the vendors, and I've got proof of that from them. We enhanced our landscaping contract, so you probably have seen people out picking up trash and cleaning weeds that you didn't see before. It's an ongoing process, and it's a slow process, but we'll be making more progress in the future. So I want to thank the board members that have been collaborating with the Town Center board members and our district manager over the last couple of months. I think it's helping with the collaboration significantly.
Thank you, Bill.
I have a comment for Mr. Smith that since you're sending things out to bid, so I'm concluding that that is a new management company and Timberline will not be part of this as of the 2025 season to finish the project. You said you needed him for the next 6 months, but changing one person that still is under the direction and full control of Timberline. So can you answer that for the public that you're searching for new management?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that at this point. I'm sorry.
So I'll take that as a no until I see
You can
different.
take it any way you
Thank
want
you.
to. I'm just saying that I'm not at liberty to make any public comments. But your president and I have had discussions about this topic.
Bruce, did you want to discuss the budget impacts?
Yeah, I wanted to let folks know, this is on the probably the last discussion we'll have on the recall election. So the overall expenses of the recall election were $93,270. Of that, $8,278.39 were added to the election line item for 2023, and $84,991.61 will be attributed to the 2024 line item for elections in the 2024 budget. That means that the 2024 budget will be $39,991.61 over budget. It will not necessitate a budget amendment, at least at this time, because our overall appropriated line is just around 3.5 million for 2024. And I've been assured by both Alyssa at CLA and by Evan that we don't have to do a budget amendment hearing. We definitely don't have to do a budget amendment hearing for 2023 budget. The auditors will take care of anything that needs to be done in terms of the audit. And if we do need to do a budget amendment for 2024, we won't need to do it until the December board meeting after after we have all of our receipts and all of our expenditures and have a better idea of the total numbers toward the end of this year. But I just want people to know that, just for reference, the last time that Ebert had a fully contested election, our line item expended $1,436, and looking at the backup documentation, because when we got these numbers, after being told the recall was only going to cost us about $20 or maybe $30 or $40,000, we asked for backup documentation from Denver. It appears that because they had 2 in-person polling places, plus we had the use of the drop-off mailboxes, ballot boxes that were obviously picked up, ballots were picked up regularly or on a daily basis. That plus there was the certification process. I know personally that there were at least 5 or 6 members of the clerk staff that were paid to oversee that certification process. It just was more expensive because the clerk's office was running that election. But that's just what happened. So I just wanted the district to know the results, but it won't require any sort of budget amendment. And that's really all I have for that.
Thank you, sir.
Kurt, this is Director Kennedy. I just wanted to ask Bill if the report that he included in the board packet, it starts, it's an 11-point discussion. I'm going to it right now. The subject is a progress report on May 6, 2024, stay on litigation. And it starts with point number 2. And he may just want to edit that to start with point number 1, and then it would only go through point number 10. It's just a enumeration issue.
I was trying to match the numbers in my report to the numbers in the MOU.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay. And there was,
That's what I
so
was
there was
doing.
nothing to report on number 1 then.
Item number 1 essentially said, Ebert could have done things better and Tom Senate could have done things better. And I didn't want to go into that. That's historical. I don't want to deal with historical. I want to look forward.
Okay.
I thought I
Well-
covered that in my preamble, but maybe not effectively.
That's
We
right.
have a lot of communication problems tonight, it seems.
Thanks for the clarification.
Outstanding. We'll move forward to new business then. First item in new business is potential upcoming board vacancies on the Ebert Metropolitan District. Director Scheibels, I believe you asked for this on the agenda.
Yeah, I just want the public to know, and that's partly because the last time there were board vacancies, we really had a hard time getting folks to submit their interest. And there are 2 board members right now that have their houses up for sale. I have no idea when the sales might happen or close. And, you know, unfortunately for them, the recent hailstorm may also impact that timetable. But when those house sales do close, that will necessarily create vacancies. And within our bylaws, we have a vacancy process since one of the provisions has to do with, you know, past elections and, you know, the candidates, that provision doesn't work because we didn't have a, you know, multiple candidates standing for election and then we can go to the last candidate who didn't make it. And we just got no people expressing interest. So I'm just wanted to have that on the agenda to let the public know that if vacancies do happen between now and either the next board meeting or now and the end of the year, there will be a email blast. We may even spend money on mailings to the 9,000, you know, electors in the district, only because the last time it was just an email blast and we got no interest. Maybe mailing we'll have to do this time, only because we'd like to have people, you know, submit interest, and then we have basically a 60-day process to review interested people, and then we probably will have to have a special meeting, notice a special meeting, and vote on members. And that's all I wanted to talk about. And I don't know if any of the other board members want to talk about.
Any other comments from the directors?
No.
Okay, thank you. Next is discussion of a return to in-person board meetings.
Yeah, this is on the agenda because I've had people in the community who brought this issue up to me. I've been told, you know, obviously the in-person meetings stopped when COVID came, and we've been doing virtual meetings. And there's been some interest in returning to in-person meetings. There are some people who really like the virtual. In-person meetings are something that I'm doing. The problem is finding a place that could do it. I I personally looked into what it would take to do it at the rec center, because I was told that's where they always used to happen. I don't know what the process was before. I have been told, actually, I guess they used to do them during the day. But I don't know if the rec center had the same, what seems like a real sort of, I don't know, draconian process, because apparently you can only apply for a rental space in certain time periods. Like you can't even apply, we couldn't even apply for an in-person meeting there in September until late July, because that's when the next rentals time period opens up. We couldn't have a nighttime meeting that started at 7 unless we ended before 8, because they close at 8 at night, and they won't stay beyond that point, not even if offered to pay someone to be there late. So unless we change, we'd have to, I guess, amend our administrative resolution to start meetings earlier. And I'm working full time now, so I couldn't do it during the day. Or we'd have to maybe do it on a weekend. I asked Kurt to look into maybe the library or the elementary school on the north end of the district. But I also have been told that maybe we could use the clubhouse if we asked TCMD nicely, that we maybe could use the clubhouse in Fairway Villas. So that's something that we're going to look into. And if we did do in person, we would also still have a option, a virtual option. But if we did in person, we would hopefully have at least Kurt in person and all of the board members in person. And we would still do them at night, because I think that a lot of folks still are working who attend our meetings, and it would be more convenient to do it at night. So we still, and at least for this year, we've noticed that our regular meetings at least are all at 7 p.m. So we would do it at night. And that's the reason I put that on the agenda for tonight's discussion.
And Bruce, I did check with the local branch of the library up there, and they do have a meeting room that's available. However, its reservation process is all done online. The library closes at 6, and so any meetings would have to be completed no later than 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so that's a similar issue to the rec center.
Okay.
So I don't know, is the
Is
board
there a
willing to do
possibility
in-person?
is there a possibility for the smokehouse?
Someone suggested that, but, we've, in Fairway Villas, at least, we've recently upgraded the acoustics in both the lodge and the, and even the other part of the clubhouse. The Oakwood room at the smokehouse has horrendous logistics. I'm sorry, horrendous acoustics. We could look into it, but the acoustics in that Oakwood room are terrible.
Okay, thank you very much. We can move on to financial items. First item is to review the financial statements for the period ending April 30th. April is with us tonight. April, would you like me to share my screen with you?
Alyssa.
Sorry, Alyssa.
Yeah, you could share your screen. We did provide the April financials in the packet. I believe they should also be posted to the website by now. As far as the numbers go, the only thing that I was going to point out was what Bruce already discussed, the election item line, which is now showing the total cost of the recall election. Otherwise, everything is pretty status quo unless the board had any questions for me.
I think Lewis had a question on page 2.
Alyssa, I'm going to look on my copy of it and bring it to your attention. It's just I wanted to comment on the year-to-date spending through April, and it's the amounts that are being spent on district management. And I want to see the number page at the bottom of that page was page 2. I believe it's under the general fund. I'm gonna look for it right now.
Yeah, so your district management's expense looks like it's about $3,756.91.
Louis, you were talking about the service outlay town center.
That's the one, the service outlay. It's the largest number. And I just wanted to point out that although we're only 4 months into the year, we've spent somewhat in the vicinity of half of the budget.
Yeah, so
Could you-
I would take a look at page 9, which is going to be your property tax schedule. And that does show that we have collected about 53 or about almost 54% of your property taxes. So that's why we are about at half. So it's based on your property collections.
I'm not referring to the revenue, it's the expenditure. In other words, yeah, let me go to the page. I can speak directly to it here. Hold on just a moment. Because I'm not seeing a shared screen.
Oh, thank you. Yep, the services outlay line to town center.
Yes, there we are. Yes, this is the page. So the services outlay expenditure, the full year budget is 2.9 million. We've spent 1.5 million already, and which means we're a little more than 50% of the way through the budget. And I just wanted to clarify for the public and get your take on this, that the spending that the town center does is not uniform through the year. And it's likely that they would spend a lot of their money on the startup in the springtime.
Correct. So this expense, it does directly correlate with your property tax schedules because this is your 17 mills that goes to town center.
Yes.
So we do transfer the full 17 mills. That's the amount shown here. Doesn't mean that town center has spent all of that right at this date. This is just corresponds with your collections. We transfer this monthly.
Right. And so just as you're saying, it relates to the property tax collections. So as property taxes are collected, the mills are moved over to town center, and then they can spend it on their programs as they come in.
Exactly.
And they don't spend ahead of their tax revenue. In other words, it would not have been possible for them to spend 2 million because we don't have 2 million in property taxes yet.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted that clarification for the general public that we don't spend the money before we have it. And the way that that works is through the property tax collection process. Okay. Very good. That's really the significant issue on the April financials.
Gotcha. Any other questions?
Oh, I do have one more. Sorry. It has to do with the cash position or the projected cash position. I think it's right near the end of the April report. If we could look at that. Because it shows the payment of the debt service, if you know where that is, Alyssa.
Yes, so that is going to be page 8. Yes, we did make our June 1st interest payments on your loan. So those are right in line with your budget. And we did make those payments on June 1st. The rest of your interest and principal payments will be made in December.
Yes, and I just wanted to point out for the public, although this is an April 30th financial statement, this particular report, the schedule of cash position, was updated at June 3rd, which means the June 1st debt service was paid, and here's the evidence that it was paid and how much was paid. So this is this will show as an expenditure when we have the June financial report, or June or later.
Exactly. So that expense will show up on your June financials, but exactly as you said, their scheduled cash position is going to be an update of your cash at real time. So at the top it says updated as of June 3rd. So that's your cash as of June 3rd.
Yeah. And thank you for updating it. That's very helpful, because then we're sitting here within weeks of within a week of when you updated that. So we have a very current position there. So thank you.
Of course.
That's all. I promise.
Alyssa, would you like to move on to the payables?
Yep, so we have your invoices, processed and paid since your last meeting. And then at this time, since it was still early in the month, we didn't get many of our May invoices yet. So your only payable that's showing is going to be that recollection invoice. It still is in the final approval stage. Should be paid within the next few weeks.
And are the director stipend checks? I don't see them on this one. Have
Yeah,
they-
so the payroll, we don't normally include that on here. We can start doing that if the board would like. Yeah, I guess we don't consider it. It is a district expense. We can start adding that, the director's fees for the board members.
Okay, yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. If you could, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Noted. Thanks.
Directors, if there's no questions about the payables, just need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion on the payables? Is there anyone opposed to the payables? Thank you very much. Next is review and consider approval of the 2023 financial audit.
Yep, so these are your audited financials for 2023. So the main difference between these and the monthly financials that you guys see throughout the year are that these are in full accrual, while your monthly financials are in modified accrual. And really the only difference that shows up is going to be your full balance of your bonds. That's going to be your non-current liabilities. Otherwise, it does look very similar to your financials, and then it does have notes on all of your accounting principles and your debt and everything under the sun, pretty much. So these are currently in audit fieldwork stage. We do anticipate filing on time by July 31st. If there's no specific questions, I believe the motion would be to approve subject to final legal review and to a clean opinion from the auditor.
You contact Evan to get, because this year we are going to need Evan's input because of the litigation component that would go in the audit report.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've sent the audit on to the legal team, to Evan, so he should get back to me with any additions or modifications.
Okay, and they've got the revised December number with the new election line as well, correct?
Correct. This is an updated, it has your, yes, the election
Okay.
line does reflect the recall from the 2023 as well.
And the budget thing, the authorized execution of the representation letter, is that for my signature or Lewis's signature as the treasurer?
Either one can sign. That could be up to you guys.
Okay. And that would just be something we'll get a DocuSign email?
Yeah, the auditor will send that to you.
The auditor will send, okay. Okay.
If there are no questions, just need a motion and a second. Approve, subject to final legal review, and then final auditors updates.
This is Lewis. I move that we accept the audit. We don't approve it, but I move that we accept it.
Copy that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Alyssa. Sorry about that.
Well, thanks, guys.
Okay, next is manager report. I do not have a CCR status report. It just came in this afternoon late, and I forwarded that to the board members via email. I have not had a chance to take a look at it. So I'm not prepared to speak about it. Did you all get that via email?
Yeah, it's the 142 page thing that we've already said really isn't that helpful. So I'm not sure how we're going to do those going forward.
Okay, same as the work order status report. I did get an email from Brittany late today saying that it's not prepared. She will get that to us as quickly as possible, but it wasn't ready for today's meeting. Next is the statutory compliance to special district compliance calendar. The next speed bump, if you will, is the audit that's due by July 31st. And we're on track to have that completed and submitted to the state auditor either on or before that date.
Yep, it looks like we're not gonna need an extension this year like we have in the past.
We don't anticipate that. If there are no other questions, next item of business is.
I have a question, Kurt. This is Cynthia. I just have, we have nobody here, right? Because Brittany left, right? So I just have a, with the compliance of the neighborhood and in the master declaration about all these signs that we have in their front yard. When are those going to be removed? We are not supposed to have signs according to 4.1 T master declarations. Restrictions on signs and advertising. So everyone that has a sign, it indicates that the homeowner who put the sign out got approval by Westwind. So how do we find out about that? Where do we put that in the minutes here?
I can reach out to Westwood and see if they can give us a statement of who applied or if anyone applied and what their plan is for enforcement.
Okay, because in the master declaration, again, it's section 4.1 T, restrictions on signs and advertising. No sign, poster, billboard, advertising device, or display of any kind shall be erected or maintained anywhere within the community area so as to be evident to public view, except signs as may be approved in writing by the town center district or which are permitted herein.
And
So I'd
Cynthia,
like that report, that they have all, that everyone who has a sign out here, because it's getting to look pretty tacky. There's over at least 100 of them. You don't need to
Kurt,
advertise.
she's
for
talking
all
about
these.
signs for roofing companies that are gonna be
Yeah,
doing
we
that.
don't really need that. That's a private issue. Has nothing to do with our neighborhood. It
Yes,
just
ma'am.
invites a lot more porch information and non-solicitation, which they don't understand what that is. So I'd like to see the neighborhood cleaned up, as well as the landscaping. So I think that could be taken care of relatively easily.
yes, ma'am. I'll reach out to Westwood and find it and get you an answer.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bell, this isn't public comment time. I would ask that you hold your comments. Next item of
I'm sorry, I just wanted to disagree about the signs. People are going through a very hard time now. Having the signs out is okay. We are discussing it with neighbors and trying to get advice. I think that's absolutely ridiculous when people are really going through a very difficult time in our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is other business, and we were asked to post for an executive session.
Yep.
So I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
I move we go into exec session under CRS section 24-6-402, paren 4, close paren B, close paren, for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions regarding enforcement of covenants and improvements within the district and eventual transition of district functions from TCMD.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anyone opposed to going into executive session? All right, thank you. Let me segregate here. Members of the public, I'm going to segregate the board into a separate room, and then when they're finished with their executive session, we will come back to general session. Bear with me 1 second, sorry.
Uh-oh.
That had to be the quickest executive session in history.
For some reason, we were time limited in our breakout room.
Wasn't able to segregate everybody out.
And Kurt,
We
I mean,
lost,
Lewis never showed up.
he did show up and then it went out because Cal was in there.
It's because it got open to everyone, that's why.
Okay. There he is. Now you lost Evan.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I can see him.
But I'm in, I'm not supposed to be in.
Well, we still have everyone at the moment.
Everybody's in right now.
Can you turn off the recording while you're in executive session so the rest of us can chat?
We're not in executive session yet. It hasn't broke out. Yes,
I
sir.
know, but when you get.
So we
Too
were,
bad you haven't been recording this whole time. Go ahead.
Before you guys start, I'm representing everybody on here, not as a town center person, but as a resident. We think this person, Victor Slobodnik, was an alias. We ran some checks on him. He's not an Ebert registered voter. We ran some AI on him and we think we know who it was. And we would like all his nasty comments deleted from the public record if possible.
Well, the meeting is a public meeting, and so you don't have to be a resident or taxpayer of the district to take part in the meeting. Since he didn't actually voice any opinions, the chat is just merely an add-on to the minutes.
It might help to not have the chat included in the minutes next time.
And we can do that. It's been policy for the board to include chat. And if the directors choose to not do that anymore, we can stop including that as part of the record.
Well, not necessarily forever, but this particular time.
Yes, sir. I'll bring that up with the board. Thank you.
so before we went into exec session, as you can tell by the motion and the agenda item, we've been concerned about covenant enforcement and the transition. And when transition happens, the board is going to have to be involved with covenant enforcement. in the future at some level or at obviously a much higher level. We have no covenant enforcement right now. It's all done by TCMD and by their, designee, their town manager, their district manager, who contract with Westwind for covenant enforcement. And so that was we got legal advice concerning covenant enforcement issues. And if any of the other board members want to chime in, we do have at least one other item of business we want to take care of, but I don't know if any other board members want to say anything before we go on with the other item of business we're going to take care of before we get done tonight.
Yeah, Bruce, I'd like to just make a comment at this point, and that is the concept of transition from a developer controlled board of directors, that is Town Center Metro District, has been on the table for quite a long time. And Ebert has been waiting for Town Center to start the process. It seems pretty evident that they are not going to start the process. And what we're about to talk about is a small strategic step for the future that will help us begin that conversation and start that transition. And anyone else can kind of chime in or expand on that maybe.
And the step we take tonight is not something that is meaning we're going to start something and do it tomorrow. And even if it goes forward and we do ultimately get some authority, it won't even happen until the transition process gets done. What we do know is at the end of 2025, all of the money that is your tax money, my tax money, that we send to Town Center to operate the district for us, including the covenant enforcement that they currently do, will stop, because the money will stop flowing. And at the end of 2025, the tax dollars will stay with Ebert, but something else will have to happen. It's money in order to keep the district functioning. And what we're starting tonight is part of that process.
Right.
So with that said, I'm going to make a motion authorizing Evan Ella and his legal team to draft and send a 45-day notice to the city and county of Denver under the appropriate or the applicable statutory Colorado statutory provisions regarding special district service plans concerning covenant enforcement in Colorado.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to remind the public that this is a process that's in the Colorado statutes, and it's not a guarantee. It's an option available to us, and we'd like to see if this option will work. There are other alternatives that take longer and maybe much more expensive, but for now we'd like to try this and see if we're successful, and that will, we believe, assist in the transition discussion.
Any further discussion?
Well, we're just trying to be proactive because we don't really know what's TCMD is thinking and as far as their progression and timing. And this is one step we will have taken now to protect ourselves in the future.
Yep.
I agree with that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed to the motion? Thank you. It passes unanimously.
And with that, I don't see anything else on the agenda unless somebody else on the board has something else they want to bring up.
Is it possible you could explain that last resolution in a little bit more detail, what exactly the step you're taking? I kind of want to pass that on to my side.
Can I talk to you about that in a
Separate email is
collaboration
fine.
type setting?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Let's have a quid pro quo. Give us some collaboration and we'll talk to you.
along, so just go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like further explanation about that as well.
There's no more public. There's no more public comment. I suggest we end the meeting.
Why must it be secret?
Well, it's not secret. This is Evan, the attorney. Bruce explained it. It's a statutory procedure that lets the district add the covenant enforcement power to their service plan so that they can do covenant enforcement in the future when Town Center Metro District no longer does it. So this is just the procedural step to get that in place.
Thank you, Evan. That helps.
And we're doing it now because it just seems like it'll help aid in the transition over the next, really you have 18 months to get the transition done. So, we got to get moving on some of these.
No change in the covenants. It's just who's enforcing.
No, it's just who has the authority to enforce them.
Thank you. That was a better
Thank you.
explanation for me.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other discussion or comments, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there anyone opposed to adjourning? All right, good night. We'll stand adjourned at 9:24.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Have a good
all.
night.